Hello, welcome to this week's episode. Nope. Today's episode of Juicing the Numbers. I am your host, Joshua Tracy.
And I'm Corwin Heller.
As I started doing a different intro for a different show. Welcome to the Monday stats episode of the podcast. It is we're recording this on Sunday around 2:45 here on the East Coast, PM, not AM. So NFL games are live, but we don't know what has happened. We only know what is happening. So we're not going to really be getting into it. But
wait, what? We don't know what has happened. We just know what's happening. We don't know the past.
We don't know the past. We only vaguely know the present.
What about the future? Where do we stand on that?
Oh, that we've got nailed down.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Sadness. Yeah.
Oh god, that is the most accurate statement you could make about the future.
It's always sad. And no matter where you are, your bed is better. Better than
I'm recording from my bed right now, so
hey, you're living it up, man. Oh, sorry. Anyway, so I figure we could start off with a little bit of numbers, and then we'll pivot into some. They will be. I'm not sure they'll be juiced. It might be more like a compote situation. But regardless, we will talk about some numbers, and then we'll talk about some headlines, and then we'll talk about how to find the show elsewhere as we exit from this episode. Anyway, Corwin, you ready to talk about some baseball free agency?
I am.
All right. So I pulled a list from Spot Track of every free agent in the MLB. And they did not have an export function, so it was copy and paste.
Fuck that.
I know. Maybe it's for, wealthy bitches who actually pay for Spot Track. I'm assuming you can do that, but that's not me. I then pulled in the WAR for every player that had that on Baseball Reference, which was a bit of a chore as well, because when Baseball Reference exceeds like 500 lines, which they do for pitchers and batters in a given season, you have to copy and paste it into a text document and then save that and then open it as a TXT Excel file. And then I had to do VLOOKUPs, and it was like very tedious for what ends up being a very small amount of gain. But so I have the WAR for every play, last season's WAR for every player who is in free agency right now. And I figured we could talk about the guys who had the most WAR last season, see where they stand and what you think they'll command in the marketplace, as well as some of the more famous guys that we might be thinking of, and seeing just how they kind of did and where that stacks up to the rest of the players in the MLB. So
sounds bueno.
All right, let's do it. So the player with the most WAR last season, who is currently a free agent, is starting pitcher Trevor Bauer. We've talked about Trevor Bauer a little bit previously. For reference, he had 2.7 WAR last season. And in case you're listening to this in the distant future, please remember 2020 was a shortened season. So if we were to assume a tripling of the number of games, which is about fair based on the actual number of games played versus how many games are in an actual season, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Then we'd be looking at a little over like an 8 WAR season for Trevor Bauer, which is really good, really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? 8 WAR Trevor Bauer is commanding on the open market here.
30 million, 28 million.
I guess this also depends on term here, doesn't it?
Yeah. I imagine it would be fairly decent. How old is he? 29?
30.
Same difference. I think he could get 29. I think he could possibly break 30 as well. I think 29 would be a fair compromise, especially given the state of, what happened this season. Yeah, I'll say that.
Well, that's one of the things that makes it interesting, because the Phillies, I think, just came out yesterday, 2 days ago, and said that they can't
Yesterday.
afford to keep JT Realmuto because they reported a loss of something comical, like $1 billion.
What?
That's what they're
Yeah.
saying anyway. How? I guess by the stadium being open but not having many fans in the stadium.
Still
Oh, sorry,
though, oh my
sorry,
god.
sorry, sorry. My number was hilariously off. It was 145 million with an M.
Oh god, thank God.
Yeah, 145 million with an M. Which is still a very significant amount of money.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But it's like tough to say because didn't someone just get a big ol' extension somewhere? Or
Probably something somewhere, yeah.
well, Charlie Morton got his 15 million. That's nothing to sneeze at. Um,
No.
especially for a guy who's how old did we say he was? 36, 37, 38?
37.
Yeah, I'll buy it. I don't know. I have no idea. I
Yeah, it's one of those things where we always talk about how owning an MLB franchise, owning a sports franchise is free money because the investment, regardless, is going to accrue value over time. Granted, this year of all years, especially, that is definitely not the case. And it is nearly certain that teams that are in the middle of this right now are losing money because, what you said with stadiums having to be open, players still getting paid, all of this still going on, but without the revenue streams that you usually would expect. Um, so it's definitely hard on teams this year. That being said, claiming you are unable to afford a franchise level prospect, literally, the best player on your team that would be any given season, uh, because of 1 year of losses is insanity.
yeah, it's
I
definitely
don't
it's
know if I
definitely
agree with that. I don't know if that's something I believe as being a valid excuse and not just we're trying to cut costs and we need a way to explain not re-signing a really good player.
it I I think it would be being afraid of short-term losses, which, everyone's afraid of short-term losses because it's losses. Losses suck. But it would be more beneficial in the long run, because even if we don't see, you know, even 75% of stadium capacity in 2021, uh, I would assume that we will. I'm going to be. I don't even think it's optimistic. I think it is realistic that we'll be seeing fans in the stadium in 2022. Plus, let's not discount the fact that people who had the disposable income to buy tickets to go to games will also buy jerseys if they
Mhm.
still have that disposable income. I know that is a difficult part right now, but assuming that you have someone who in a normal year would spend $60 on a ticket might end up spending plus 20 on parking and 20 on beers and drinks and everything, so that total $100, they might just buy $110 jersey. Like, that's not an unreasonable way to shift that baseball spending,
Yeah,
and
that's actually
being
a really good
good,
way to look at it.
right? I mean, I would do that. Like, I am someone who goes to games with a moderate frequency every season. Same thing with Jets games. I haven't bought any Jets gear this year because I don't know who's gonna last on our fucking team. I don't know who's there. But, I mean, if your team is good, people will buy your shit.
Yeah.
And I'd be willing to bet that the Marlins probably just sold a bunch of gear a few weeks ago when they announced the hiring of Kim Ng, because that's something to be excited about. Even though it's not on the field baseball shit, it's something to be excited about. And that's gonna generate you revenue.
Still crazy to me that they're going to use that excuse and none will be the wiser.
I mean,
We'll
baseball
keep going
sucks.
back to normal.
Baseball's the worst. So they're gonna we knew the owners were gonna find any reason they could to not pay people. Um, so let's actually keep going down the list. Next one's a super interesting one. Marcell Ozuna. And Marcell Ozuna finished his season with 2.3 WAR. which multiplied by 3 brings you to 6.9.
Yeah, right.
Real quick, his simulated stats for 2020 on Baseball Reference for 160 game season had him at 4.5 WAR total. So he beat that out by a ton. Had the season of his fucking life. And is now probably the 1B hitter on the open market to maybe George Springer, depending on how you want to look at that. But with Ozuna having,
I personally would put George Springer ahead of Ozuna, but
I would too. I was tempted to just put him at 1, and then I saw Springer, and I was like, we should probably put Springer ahead. But still, being the second best hitter in free agency, it means a lot. So, who needs an outfielder? And what kind of contract would you expect for 30-year-old Marcell Ozuna?
see, that's tough. See, I don't know what kind of contract he would really, carry with him. I'm not familiar enough with baseball contracts to really be able to judge, hey, Marcell Ozuna, great player who I guess you could argue had a down season last year. Just not being able to see, I can't even argue that really. I really just don't know. I really don't know what Marcell Ozuna should carry with him as value. So, how'd you say?
And I'm looking at the teams that I think might need outfielders, and they also just don't seem like teams who would pony up money to get him. Like you look at the Cleveland Indians, they could use an outfielder, but they're considering letting go of Francisco Lindor just to avoid paying him. They're not going to avoid paying their face of the franchise shortstop and then turn around and pay a left fielder. That's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And also this puts the Phillies in a really weird. Actually, I want to talk about the Phillies again for a moment. This puts them in a bizarre spot because if they're signaling that they're not going to re-sign JT Realmuto, they're going to take themselves out of the race for him strictly because of money. And they only finished 4 games below 500 last year. That's not a lot. They were, I believe, I'm gonna pull up their page, but I believe they were like at 500 the year before in a division that's full of ups and downs. So yeah, they were 81 the year before that, 82 the year before that, and then 66 and 96 the year before that. I forgot 2017 was so bad. But by not re-signing JT Realmuto, what are they going to do? Like, because they're now signaling to every free agency, hey, we're broke and we're not going to pay you. And even though we keep finishing third in the division, which is very promising, most teams would love that, we're going to throw in the towel? Like, where are they at?
It's so impossibly hard to say. It's one of those things where they keep looking like they are on the verge of, putting a playoff contending team together, on the verge of being able to consider themselves Super Bowl World Series contenders, signing Bryce Harper, bringing Rhys Hopkins in, re-signing him to a big contract, bringing in, Andrew McCutchen, who I still want to say is a high, level kind of guy because I love him.
I refuse to be convinced otherwise.
Right. And, it's just one of those things where it has never clicked for them. When is it? What is going to be needed? I mean, obviously, Aaron Nola is a great pitcher who has had a couple back-to-back not awful seasons, but not up to what you kind of expect from him being your ace. What else is needed? And I don't know.
Yeah, so
also completely avoiding mentioning, the fact that they did bring in JT Realmuto.
Yeah, from the Marlins, because the Marlins were tearing down in 2017, and the Phillies were rearing up in 2017, post 2017. So they made the move for him, and the Marlins still beat the Phillies to the playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
which is just nuts. So as it stands right now, the Phillies in 2021 have $127 million committed to payroll, which puts them 11th in the MLB thus far with 37 men on the roster. So they need 3 more people. Damn. Oh man, this is going to be a really because this offseason for the Phillies, I think, is really going to determine whether they go in for another rebuild or make that last big push at trying to fucking be good. And by not signing Real Muto, I'm willing to make a bet as to which direction they're planning on going in.
Right.
Wow, that's crazy.
Which is crazy to look at, what they've done the past couple of years with bringing in big name guys and just being able to do nothing with it.
Yeah, it's crazy because they improved 15 to 20 wins per season over the last few years, and it hasn't been enough. In part because of how bad they were. Going from winning 65 games to winning 83 games is a huge improvement, but still not enough. So how low they were is not helpful, but also how just bizarre that division's been with the Nationals' constant jumps between being good and bad, the Mets choosing to be good for certain stretches of time and then horrendous for others, the Marlins weirdly getting hot, the Braves really coming up. Oh man, it's going to be ugly for the Phillies, kind of no matter what. It's crazy with the Mets right now.
Yeah, I mean, at least the Mets have of ownership to make it work. Is definitely helpful in bringing guys in and bringing in fresh faces, bringing in the right fresh faces. Steve Cohen seems like a major get, and hopefully it works out because God, we all want them to do well.
No, the Mets. I thought you were talking about the Phillies again for a second. I was like, eh. All right, you know what? Let's make some hot take random guesses for these picks as well. So for Trevor Bauer, give me a team. Where do you think he's going?
Padres.
Padres. I will say. I really want to say the Angels because it would actually make a ton of sense, except for the fact that the Angels have no money because they keep signing batters for no reason. So I don't want to also pick the Padres.
I mean, they have the 3 best batters in the American League: Trout, Rendon, and Shohei Ohtani.
I thought you were going to say Albert Pujols.
No. The actual 3rd best batter in the MLB or in the AL. I need him to do well for my own personal mental health.
I know you do. I'll say the Twins. I'll go out there and say the Twins. Trying to retain division supremacy.
That would actually be very interesting, and I don't necessarily think that was one of the teams he was super against. So sure.
Oh, and its likelihood of happening is slim to none.
Yeah.
But hey, it'd be pretty cool.
I'd also love to see him go to the Yankees just for pure chaos.
I don't want it. I don't want it.
Chaos theory.
Who do you think? Where do you think Marcell Ozuna is going to go? Give me a team.
Who would pay Marcell Ozuna? I'll say the Indians. I think they'll sign him.
You will say the Indians?
Yeah, I think the Indians are really fucking dumb, so I think they do something like that. And they would take a guy like Ozuna with a good amount of money versus a young, even better guy with just a little bit more money,
Oh, okay.
Because hope is low here, Josh. Hope is low.
So I kind of want to pick a bad team who thinks that they can get like a vet guy in there, what like a team that's bad but is also like kinda maybe on the upswing. So I'm between two. Final answer. Final answer is Mariners.
Okay, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean the Mariners are having a big come up in their batters. We just saw Kyle Lewis take Rookie of the Year. Um, there's plenty to be excited about with some of their upcoming pitching. Oh, not excited. Maybe that might be the wrong word, but hopeful that it just doesn't suck. That's all they need. They just need it to not suck.
Who do they have a guy from the Yankees, right? That's their only
They've
real
got Justice
pitcher.
Sheffield from
Yep,
the
that'd be him.
Yankees. He's been fine. Marco Gonzalez has still been good. Yusei Kikuchi started off fine last year and then got just fucked at the back end. But if those three guys can like kind of get it together and be decent, that's not a bad starting three. And then you just need a couple two dudes who aren't going to lose you all the games in the back, and their batting's getting better. And maybe this is a step for them. Where do the Mariners rank in payroll?
Probably pretty low.
Pretty low. 26th. They have 40 men signed to their team right now, and they still only have a payroll of $53 million.
What?
Wow. Yeah.
I'm sorry. What?
Actually, all of the bottom 7 teams have 40 men on their roster and have below $60 million of payroll. The Indians are at 56. The Tigers are at 54. The Marlins are at 53. The Rays are at 51. The Pirates are at 49. The Orioles are at 48. And the Marlins are at 46.5. And they made the playoffs. And the Rays won the did win the World Series. They made the World Series. Sorry, Dodgers fans. You won the World Series. Wow, that's amazing. Who did you say? I forget. Who did you say for Ozuna? Where do you think he was going?
The Genius Indians.
That's right, the Indians. All right, George Springer. He had 1.9 WAR last year out there in center field. However, he's typically, which again, if we multiply it by 3, because that's just kind of what I'm doing for this, that brings up to 5.7 WAR. But he is, even though 5.7 WAR is like pretty fucking good, he's actually usually better than that because he's very good at baseball, to use a Corwin joke.
Hey.
Year before, in 2019, his WAR was 5.1. That was his OWAR, 6.4. 2018 in a down year, 2.7. 2017, 5.0. 2016, 5.1. He's really good. And it seems as though he is like committing to not re-signing with the Astros. I think he wants to get the stink of his own cheating away from him, acting as though he did not take part in it, but whatever. Teams that need outfielders, he's younger. No, actually, he's older than Ozuna. What? He's 31.
Oh my god! Always forget how old he is because he looks like he's 13. You know, maybe not 13, but you know what I mean. Did you cut out? That's why you can't hear me right now. Josh, are you alive? Hello? Is it me you're looking for? I can see it in your eyes. This is a weird joke.
Wait, Corwin, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, I can't tell if I cut out or you cut out, but I couldn't hear you.
I couldn't hear you either. I still had the green thing.
The green thing?
The voice says when you're talking or not.
Right. Okay, it was probably me then. Now, what was the last thing you heard me say?
George Springer being old, and we were surprised by that.
Okay, good. That's when I stopped talking. What did you say? I didn't hear you.
And I said, "Oh well, it's because he looks like a 13-year-old." And then you didn't respond to that bad joke, and I was like, "Oh, like you must be fucking around because there's no way you would just not say anything."
No, I wouldn't. That's not my move.
Then I started singing a little bit, but I'm glad that got cut out.
I guess we'll find out when I when I download this if it's there or not.
Forgot that was still an option. All right.
All right. So where do you think center fielder George Springer, which is so Springer a year older than Ozuna, a year younger. Sorry, not a year younger. A positional adjustment better than Ozuna. Where do you think he's going?
I think he goes to the Blue Jays. That's kind of been a hot rumor lately. It makes a lot of sense. You know, they have a young team. They're looking to start contending. Um, they kind of need some actual outfielders because they have key players in almost all other positions. So I think that would make a whole lot of sense for them.
So you know what's interesting? I was considering saying the Blue Jays for Marcell Ozuna, and I looked at who they have and how they played last season, OPS plus wise, and so Randall Grichuk is their current center fielder, and he is the least good of all the outfielders that they have that
Can you
played
say that
meaningful
name
innings last
again?
season.
I missed it.
Randall
Sorry.
Grichuk.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But even then, even with his OPS plus being the lowest of the outfielders, it was still 114. That was the lowest. The only position is that they have on the team that hit below a 100 OPS plus was third base, Travis Shaw, and catcher, Danny Jansen. Jansen with an 85 OPS and Travis Shaw with a 95 OPS.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Jansen's one of those guys where he's a young prospect, so you don't get a bound from him just quite yet. At the same time, Travis Shaw is probably like 34 now, maybe older. That's something you can really move on from easy. And I could see it happening. It's hard to say what's going to happen with the rest of the field there.
you know what? I think the Blue Jays should pull the ultimate power move and sign JT Realmuto to play catcher, and then sign Justin Turner to play third base.
I don't think they signed Justin Turner because Justin Turner is 40, an asshole, and not very good at baseball anymore compared to what he was. The name and that you're paying for.
Corwin,
Yeah.
did you hear me?
You said they should sign JT Realmuto and Justin Turner to play third.
Yeah.
Then I started going into why I don't like that idea, but I don't know if you heard me.
I didn't. Can you tell me it?
I would not be against it just because Justin Turner is old, is going to be way too expensive when you pay for, his name and not what he does. And he's a giant fucking asshole that doesn't care about his teammates' health. So I don't think they should sign him.
I don't disagree with any of it. I think it'd be a good, because one of the big questions I think we must ask ourselves as we are putting ourselves in the brains of GMs is this signing for the short term or the long term? Justin Turner is old. He will be expensive, kind of, no matter what. And so you have to know why you're signing him. And I would assume if I was a Blue Jays GM, I would be okay with signing Justin Turner because I know that's not a long-term solution, but I want some short-term wins while I eventually figure out what I want to do or what I can do with third base. I don't think it needs to happen right away. They've got better pitching. I'm not gonna say they got good pitching, but they've got better pitching. And I could justify it in my mind going with a guy like Justin Turner. Maybe not him specifically, but a guy like him to be just that stopgap. The Blue Jays, by the way, currently 19th in the MLB in committed payroll for 2021. So they have room.
Why don't they just sign Vlad to a $400 million contract?
Why would
Do
they?
that instead.
He's a first baseman.
Because they have the money to, Josh.
Do they?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not their accountant.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Touche.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Where were we?
Outfielders, George Springer.
Right. Hold on 1 second. I resorted my thing by mistake.
Natürlich. It's German for
All
naturally.
right. All right. So this next one's a weird one. Jackie Bradley Jr. with 1.8 WAR. Where's he going?
I want him to sign with I want him to sign with baseball. That's it. Correct. I want him to sign with Boston. Uh, it's one of those things that's just like I feel like he belongs there still. And I like seeing him in Boston. I kind of want him to stay in Boston.
I mean, it just makes sense really for both parties. I mean, Jackie Bradley Jr. isn't a good now. Um, he hasn't been for a while. He
Hmm.
was when he first came up, but not since. He's not young. He's 31. But he's a great defensive player. Seems like he's a great teammate. People really like him. Um, and Boston is bad, so it would seem to make a lot of
He
sense.
seems like both the player and the
And I think he will be not only because of the what seems to be a good relationship between the two parties, but also due to the fact that they make a lot of sense here.
I
You
completely
know?
agree. Yeah. I definitely
Um,
I I don't care. I don't care about Brad Keller.
I don't either. Um, so Brad Keller pitches for Kansas City. Last season, he had a 2.47 ERA. Pitched in 9 games, started all of them, had one complete game shutout, pitched 54.2 innings, had an ERA plus of 186, had a FIP of 3.43, a WHIP of 10.24, strikeouts per 9 of 5.8. So, Um, and yeah, finished with 1.2 WAR. Wow. Good for you, buddy. Sorry, 1.7 WAR.
Right.
Um, yeah, that's it, okay. Yeah, I don't care.
It's amazing how little I care, you know?
Yeah, I'm gonna just say he stays with Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Uh, yeah, this doesn't. Okay, all right, moving on. We talked about this guy before as well. Nelson Cruz. He is 40. um, he put up 1.6 WAR last year. He is a DH. Do you think he's going anywhere? Or do you think he's retiring? What do you think's happening?
I don't think he was gonna retire because he led MLB in home runs last year, right? Or he
No,
led he was close.
he was. He was up near the top. Luke Voigt led MLB in home runs.
Right. I definitely remember that because I remember that being a topic of discussion. But I think he stays, and I think he's,
I I I don't know what to make of him. Um, it. I, I don't. I just don't know, man.
Well, just the age thing. That's the big thing for you.
Yeah, it is. Because I'm trying to think of a team that needs a good power hitter, but a guy who's basically only going to be. He walks a lot too, I think. Let me pull up his actual fucking
Yeah, he's
stats.
still a tremendous hitter.
Yeah. But that's the thing. He's only going to be that. So who needs a DH? Let's see. Last season, yeah, 397 on base
Maybe not
percentage.
any NL teams. We don't know.
Well, we'll see. Oh, what would be hilarious if he went to the White Sox.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that would be a really great fit for him.
Actually, it would be the White Sox current DH, or was their current DH as of last season, was Edwin Encarnacion, who is also old, 37, and his OPS plus was 70.
Oof.
That's not
I love
good.
Edwin, but that's not getting it done.
No, he batted 157, 240, 377 for an OPS of 627, an OPS plus of 70. Means he's 30% below average of a hitter. That is very significant. Yeah, I think that Nelson Cruz should go to the White Sox.
All right, we are in agreement.
Yep. That's what needs to happen. All right. Next up, Michael Brantley.
Go back home to the Indians.
Oh,
If
that's actually an
if
interesting signing.
Ozuna doesn't, which he almost certainly won't, they still need outfielders. That's kind of his hometown team. I think they could work out a deal. I don't know how much money they would get, or he would get from them. But at the same time, I think he would take a. I don't know if he would take a discount to go there, but I think both parties would be interested in making a deal happen.
Yeah, I think the Indians are in a really weird spot for the exact opposite reason the Phillies are, because the Phillies spent a lot of money trying to be really good and just haven't been, and therefore they might stop trying to be good and stop spending money on free agents. Whereas the Indians have been spending almost no money in an attempt to not try to very hard to be good, but yet their player development is so good they keep being good anyway. Um, which would make you think that they are going to spend money, but they are trying to be cheap, so they're not. Like their own players are like forcing them. Their own player development, I should say, is forcing them to go to the playoffs and be good, and put pressure on them to spend when the ownership does not want to. So I have no idea, because the impression I get just from watching Indians free agency moves the past few seasons makes me say, well, maybe the Indians will just tear it all down.
That's
But
what
I
happens when
don't
you
think.
watch actual Indians baseball too.
Yeah. Except unless Shane Bieber's pitching,
Unless
uh,
Shane Bieber's pitching, they're correct.
right? So I don't know. I
I don't know either. It's
yeah.
bound to happen at some point. We all know it. It has to come down at some point because they are not willing to keep paying for talent.
Yeah. Oh no, it's gonna come crashing down at some point, and it will hurt. In regards to Michael Brantley, I think it'd be also very funny if he went to another divisional rival, and I would like to see him go to Oakland.
Okay.
As much as we all love Chris Davis, he has not been so hot in recent seasons. And it
Has
might
not hit 247 lately, which is bullshit.
no, but he did bat an even 200 last year. Um, However, that had him at an OPS plus of 79.
Yeah, it's not good. I thought that would I thought him batting 200 and having less power than he usually does or has had in the past would be a much lower um what am I looking for? OPS than what he actually did apparently.
Yeah, I want to look at his
Words.
season by season stats. All right. Yeah, so this past year, wow, last year was literally almost just as bad. His OPS last season was 679 for an OPS plus of 83, only 4 points better.
Oof.
Damn. His OPS plus by season starting his rookie year in 2013 with the Milwaukee Brewers. 155, then 106, 123, 123, 131, 137, and then fell off a cliff to 83 and kept diving to 79. Now, do you invest in the bounce back or do you go with a different guy? That's to be determined. I don't know how expensive Michael Brantley is. He is going into his age 34 season. I don't know what that means, but that's where he is. So I guess we'll find out.
Right.
Yeah. Fucking okay. Two more here to round out the top 10. Cesar Hernandez, the second baseman from the Phillies.
Um.
Switch hitter, 31. Oh, sorry. Actually, he spent his last season with Cleveland, apparently.
Yeah. I don't know where he would go. I don't know if Cleveland would want to re-sign him because, again, money. I know it was a good fit, and I know the Indians liked him, but at the same time, it's 31-year-old second baseman. How much are you willing to commit to that? I know that's not crazy old, and it's honestly nothing crazy, but I don't know. I don't. Cesar Hernandez has always been a better on the field player than anything I've thought of him as, and that's my own issues with player scouting when it comes to baseball. But at the same time, I just don't know. Um, I don't know what his true value would be.
Uh, I don't either. He feels the redux of Starlin Castro in that respect. That good, not great second baseman who might just spend a lot of time bouncing around, being a plug and play guy.
Yep, and that happens to quite a few. You know.
Yeah, I mean, and hey, being that guy still speaks volumes. The fact that Starlin Castro still plays baseball at a pretty good level for what was just a competitive team is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good career.
I could definitely see him turning in, the Brandon Phillips, Starlin Castro type, journeyman, defensive, stolen base first, um, whatever you want to consider it, type role. But basically being a role player,
Yeah,
middle infield.
exactly. Also, I counted wrong. There's two players left to round out our top 10. Liam Hendricks, the reliever, Liam Hendricks, finished with 1.4 WAR last season.
Yeah,
Where do
I'm
you
I'm
think he
honestly
goes?
surprised he's this low. I would definitely have him over a handful of other guys that we discussed at some point.
Well, it's always tough with relievers because they still calculate
Right.
WAR the same way, so not enough innings, yada yada yada.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But yeah, I mean he's 31, but he's coming off. He finished top 10 in Cy Young voting as a reliever. That's really hard. Uh, and last season he was an All Star. I mean, he's a really
Yeah.
really good pitcher.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where like it's hard as well to kind of pick a team because everyone needs relievers.
That's what I was about to say. Yep.
Literally could go anywhere and do anything, and he would be both signing a large enough contract to do so and be valuable enough to any team that would sign him. So again, Liam Hendricks, one of the better relievers in baseball right now, and for the past couple of years, could go literally anywhere.
I'm gonna predict the Astros
Really? Okay.
for no good reason, honestly.
Yeah, I mean they have money, they have the need, they absolutely have the need. I could see it.
All right, last player in the top 10, starting pitcher, uh, Kevin Gausman.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
a name.
1.3 WAR last season. Pretty good with the San Francisco Giants. Holy shit! How old do you think Kevin Gausman is?
I've had this thought so many times. He's like 32, right? Like he's old as shit.
29. 29.
I think
How
it
old is he
it
at
was like I
32 as
always
well?
thought of him as being like 25, so now I'm thinking he's significantly older just to, make up for it. But yeah, crazy.
Well, also the fact that he spent 6 seasons with Baltimore, and then he spent a half a season or 1 season, 2 half seasons with Atlanta, I should say, and then a half a season with Cincinnati, and then a full season with San Francisco. So he's played for 4 different teams, and a lot of them switching very very suddenly in the past 3 years. So I have seen his name just a ton.
Mhm.
Fucking weird. Anyway, um, where the fuck does he should go to the Angels. I
No,
couldn't justify Trevor Bauer, but he should go to the Angels.
no, you put him on the Angels and that's it. His career's over because they don't do well with guys with potential other than Dylan Bundy apparently, and I don't see him turning into anything in Anaheim. I don't know. Maybe that's just me being melodramatic and cynical, but I kind of want to see him stay in San Francisco because he did perform well there this year. Um, but who fucking knows?
I think he'd be a great fit for the Angels because they've only had success with former Orioles pitchers.
Uh, you know what? You do have me there. I can't argue that.
No, it's inarguable. Them's the facts. All right, so that's the top 10 free agents by WAR, which will make it fun. To see where they end up going, to see how we see the value of WAR be reflected in salaries coming up. To see what rate factor kinda is being used there, considering the fact that it was a shortened season. So, 1.3 WAR, we're saying, just multiply by 3 to get 3.9 WAR, but I'm not sure how that's going to be reflected in the same type of way as um, WAR typically is. So seeing how we see those numbers be reflected in actual real world salary will be very interesting, and I am
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
War. What is it good for?
Judging people, that's what it's good for. Heavy,
That was
heavy
the
judging.
original title for War and Peace.
We can't just be Seinfeld quotes.
Why not?
I'm sure there's a different podcast for that. Um, all right, shall we talk about some headlines?
Yeah.
All right. So a few different things happening around the world of the NFL. Um, so I guess let's start with the least interesting one, which is still pretty interesting. Matt Patricia getting fired. I
Yeah.
say it's least interesting because the other two things we have are more interesting, but it's also like, yeah, he should have been fired. He deserved it.
It's definitely the
But
most almost expected.
yeah, and this is what you want to see as the fan of a bad team. You want to see ownership taking ownership of its failures and trying to make organizational adjustments.
Mhm. They fired the GM as well. Did we ever figure out what his name is? Because I know we
I
both
didn't look it up.
missed it. Fair.
All right, we'll wait for that.
There.
But
Matt Patricia, Lions
I don't
GM.
I don't remember exactly the reaction when Patricia got hired for the role, but for some reason don't remember it being a welcome reception. Do you remember?
Matt Patricia?
Yeah, when he got hired for the Lions job.
I remember it being a mixed bag of, okay, the Patriots always had really good defenses, and he seems like the kind of guy who could handle a full team. But we were still in the market, or still in the era of, man, Bill Belichick assistant coaches usually suck and usually end up being bad. And there was some concern about that, which has turned out to be accurate to this day. But I don't know if I necessarily want that on Belichick, and not just the fact that it's been a coincidence at the very least that um, all of his assistant coaches that have gone on to head coaching positions have kind of fell flat.
Yeah, it's tough to pin that on Belichick per se. Um, I do like the fact that the Lions are getting rid of the GM as well, so that they
Bob
can
Quinn.
hire Bob Quinn. So they can hire
Yep.
a new GM, let him hire a coach to be simpatico with about the vision on the field, and then try to scrape together um, enough pieces to make Matt Stafford's career somewhat meaningful. Because so far it has not been, by no fault of his own. But
So,
it's gonna. I don't know, and I also feel like this is good time because this Lions team is not atrocious. They're not good, but they're not they're not the
they're not
Jets.
0-16
They're not the
Lions.
Jaguars. You know, they're not. Who else is really bad? They're not the Eagles. You know, the Eagles really should be better. That's maybe they're not the perfect example like the other two. Um, who else is?
Stafford's definitely better than Carson. Sure.
Yeah, easily. Um, so this, they're 4-7 right now, including their loss on Thanksgiving Day, which is obviously not good, and that puts them in fourth in their division. That would actually have them in third in most other divisions. But that aside, they're not they're not garbage. They're just not as competitive as they need to be in certain areas. So I actually like the fact that they're not, kind of pussyfooting around with it and wondering if, next year these two can figure out their issues and instead just went full bore and said, fuck that, fuck this. Like, this is the front office version of a going all in an off season, you know?
Right. I need them to do something, you know? I don't know what it is I'm to, but I know for some build this team, and the hope is just not there. Just don't hope.
Corwin?
Yeah, I'm back. My internet's
All right.
been super wildly choppy. I don't know why.
That's all right. We
No
we
one
we
else
got
is
we
here.
got most of you. Um I agree. I agree. They need to do something big. And I think that's going to lead to a lot of competition this offseason for head coaching jobs. You got
Yeah,
the Jets are going to be hiring a new head coach for sure. Dallas probably would be in the market as well. One would expect, or one would hope if you're a
one would
Dallas
hope.
fan.
Yeah,
Detroit is now open. Chicago's looking pretty dicey, to say the least. Jacksonville's looking pretty dicey. I don't know who the fuck the head coach of Houston is right now. Um,
Romeo Crennel.
oh, okay. No, he's probably fine. But there's a lot of teams, and depending on how Cincinnati wants to operate, they might be open to a new coach too. So
Yeah, absolutely. I don't
there's
think Cincinnati would. I think they're fine with our boy Zach Taylor. Not our boy in any sense of the word, but that's the phrase I went with. Um, but yeah, I think there are going to be a lot of open positions next year.
yeah. So good on Detroit for joining the mix.
Yep, got to get the search started early. That is for certain because you do not want to be the ones holding on to your, certainly to be fired one day head coach that's sticking around far longer than he should, and now you're stuck having to search around for a head coach when everyone else has already kind of been spoken for. Cough, cough. Wink, wink.
Yeah, seriously. Also, real quick, I just want to shout out Jim Caldwell, because firstly he deserves it as he always does. Um, Here's the Jim Caldwell years. You ready for this?
Hmm.
So Jim Caldwell's first year, um, as the head coach was 2014. And Jim Caldwell has been brought up a lot in recent years because the Lions fired Jim Caldwell, one of the few black head coaches in the NFL, to bring in Matt Patricia for like no reason. And here is the reasons. Here's that point in case. Caldwell's first season in Detroit, 2014, they went 11-5, second in the division. Second season, 2015, they went 7-9, finished third in the division. 2016, 9-7, second in the division. 2017, 9-7, second in the division. And then they fired him. Since then, with Matt Patricia, 2018, 6-10, fourth in the division. 3-12-1 in 2019, fourth in the division. And currently in 2020, 4-7, fourth in the division. With ostensibly a lot of the same personnel for those first couple years. And wow, that is certainly an error in the Detroit Lions front office management. Getting rid of Jim Caldwell. Jesus Christ.
I liked Jim Caldwell when he was head coach. I liked, what he brought, and I liked the way the team, was performing under him. Obviously, Detroit is not a franchise known for their historic talent and success.
Literally never won a Super Bowl.
He brought together the team to look like an NFL team and a team that could possibly contend at some point in his tenure if they kept moving. And then it's just kind of gone back to the good old Detroit Lions of old. And that's what's sad.
Yeah, it truly is an example of you don't know what you got till it's gone. In that I'm sure that they thought, man, finishing second sucks. Let's bring in a different guy to try to bring us over the edge. But what they didn't realize is that finishing second was the ceiling of those teams, apparently. And the only thing keeping them there was Jim Caldwell. And that Matt Patricia was so bad, the team regressed very, very heavily. I'd almost like them to bring Jim Caldwell back.
That's one of those things where it's like, he worked there. He performed well there. Why are you so... why does your ego get in the way of bringing him back?
He's only 65. I know that's actually kind of old for an NFL head coach, but I mean, Belichick's still fucking doing it. And actually, he's not coaching anywhere right now.
No,
his
all the room in the world.
Yeah, so after he got fired in 2017, he took a year off and then was an assistant head coach and quarterbacks coach in Miami in 2019, and then that's it. Nothing since. It's crazy. Yeah, he deserves it. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Last thing was once again the NFL's COVID response and how they're handling outbreaks and issues throughout the NFL this season. And the answer to that is that they're really not. So the Ravens-Steelers game that was supposed to take place on Thanksgiving, as Corwin and I talked about, it was getting pushed to Sunday. The last we had talked about it. Today is Sunday, and as anyone who listens to this podcast, I'm sure knows, the game has now been pushed to Tuesday. Why?
Solution.
I want to know why.
They'll all be better by then. Obviously.
I mean, once again, it's the same fucking points we just made last time. Once again, the logistics of it are fine. The players who are healthy are all healthy, you would think and hope and cross your fingers about. And that if all goes according to plan, the game can be played on Tuesday with no true issues. However, that means that you have Steelers players and Ravens players who follow the rules, who will have been ready for a game for Thursday, then didn't get any time off because that game got pushed to Sunday and had to keep practicing, and then still won't really get any time off because they have to keep practicing for when they get ready for their game on Tuesday. How long can you do this to people? Just take the L. Cancel the game. You're making yourself look like a fucking idiot.
Oh, yeah, because they've never done that before.
I just don't know what they're trying to achieve here, because all you're doing then is putting everybody on a short week. For what reason?
I
All you're
don't
doing is
know.
hamstringing both teams anyway.
It's it really is nothing other than fucking both sets of teams. Both teams are getting fucked by this. It's just you're trying to save face and not end up with a MLB type season with an asterisk because it's a shortened season now. And it's going to lead to more and more players getting sick and more problems down the road because they're avoiding the actual concern here.
All right, let's take it.
Okay.
You were about to talk, right? About the Pittsburgh and Baltimore game not mattering.
Uh yeah, it's one of those things where I do think there's a fair chance that this will matter at some point down the road. Uh, um, because of how these two teams uh I mean, it's hard to say. What's the Ravens record right now?
6-4. They're 4 games back from the Steelers.
Fuck, that is
10
tough.
games in.
Yeah, that is really hard because I don't know if they can make that up then, I really think they might have passed the point of no return. Which would be would be shameful to say because you still want that competition between these teams. These teams especially. But I don't want to say that it wouldn't matter because of my, pure bias towards the fact that both of these teams are bitter rivals and I want to see the Steelers be able to sweep and this and that and all around. It's tough to say. It really is. But you know what? I really wouldn't be terribly against this game being canceled because guess what? Player health will always come first, even before rivalry games. And you're right. It really shouldn't come down to this game in the division. If anything, it's going to come down to seeding with the bye week because there is only going to be one because the Steelers are ahead, but the Chiefs are right there. I think it could be a deal breaker or could be a defining factor if the Steelers end up having one less game played than the Chiefs. But you know what? It's not going to be perfect any which way you cut it. So health and safety first.
Uh, yeah. I mean, it might also factor in again with how close the Browns are. Only 3 games back to the Ravens 4, but look, man, the way I see it, let that become a problem when it's a problem. To risk player health, it's again the difference between short-term gains or long-term gains, or in this case, short-term problems versus long-term problems. You forcing this game to happen while more and more positive tests positive tests keep coming back, might end up leading to more games getting canceled.
Mm-hmm.
If you just take the L on this and say, look, if we have to revisit this because it ends up being a difference maker down the road, we figure that out, but we don't want to risk more players continuing to have to go to practice or not practicing and then not training with the team and having a worse product on the field because they don't know when they are playing, if at all. Like how is that beneficial for you? You're not gaining anything from that by this fear of pushing a game back / canceling it altogether. Just let the players know what's up. Because if this game
Absolutely.
ends up getting canceled Tuesday anyway, everyone's going to be furious. Because it's stupid of you to think that you can move a game back 2 to 3 days at a time until it becomes possible for you to play it.
It's a damn shame. And it's only getting worse each time they push it back, each time they make changes. Everything they do is just compounding together and making this worse for both teams. And at some point, they're going to have to realize that they can't just avoid these things, and you can't just keep pushing it down the road in the hope that people get healthy. And it's a damn shame that we're the ones, a team that's undefeated is getting fucked because of it,
Seriously.
when this could very well be a team that goes 15-0 with, playing one less game is going to be another asterisk. And, it'll be a fucked up thing. But at the same time, as much as that would eat away at me, it's the players and it's their health, and there can't be a debate about what comes first, record or health, player safety. That's insanity that you would actually have to have a debate between which is more important. But again, these are all of the, discussions and points that we've been making the entirety of this time, and somehow has not been decided.
And I guess we can just segue that straight into the other game of contentious conversation. The Broncos Saints game that's supposed to be happening tonight, in which the Broncos don't have a quarterback on the roster.
Nope.
And the NFL isn't even contemplating postponing that back 2 days like they did with the Steelers-Ravens game. They're just forcing the Broncos to play without a quarterback. And now, granted, the Broncos will have a man playing quarterback, but it's going to literally be a wide receiver off the practice squad.
At one point, they were trying to get, I think it was like a waiver or permission to sign their quality assurance coach to the active roster so that he could play quarterback for them. Their quality assurance coach. Granted, it's not like having like their 65-year-old offensive coordinator come pop out and do that, but that'd be pretty fucking funny. That would definitely be funnier.
And which the NFL rejected in tandem with the rejection of the players' requests to cancel the game, because again, you're asking a Broncos team to go out there, and I know the Broncos aren't good. I know the Broncos aren't going anywhere this season. They're 4-6. They're out of it, But still, like, you can't just do that to a team of players. Like, you can't just say, "Hey, I know all 3 of the quarterbacks on your roster are now ineligible to play per our rules and instructions, but we're going to force the entire team to play anyway." What? That doesn't make any sense. And all of this is making the fact that they did so much work in readjusting the Titans-Steelers game so much more confusing.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. I don't know why it's still a topic of contention today of why does the NFL play favorites? I am on the positive receiving ends of that favoritism right now. Kind of. But it's still so clear and ridiculous that they play clear favoritism.
Yeah, and to whose benefit? It's
The
one thing.
owners.
Even then, is it?
More people view more popular teams, and that means better ratings and more money.
But I mean,
So
like,
indirectly,
if
but
you were going to go to the Ravens Steelers game on Thanksgiving, you had the day off of work. You can do that.
well, it's
Almost
not
everyone
about going to the game. It's about watching the game.
The TV rights.
Yeah, like TV ratings.
I guess. Man, But the thing about that is, like, whenever you schedule that game for, your fans will watch it.
Yeah,
That's
this
kind of the
isn't.
nice thing about football.
I guess that's why they didn't rearrange Saints Broncos, because that is that is not a must-watch game. You put that on a Tuesday night, not everyone in America is turning out to watch that game on just a normal weekday night. That's not must-watch television. Where Ravens Steelers would be if the Ravens had a team to field. Regardless, it's annoying. I'm just tired of the excuses and the changes to, oh, this is why we're doing this. This is why we're doing that. I'm just sick of it, and I'm tired of the NFL's bullshit.
It's honestly a little depraved to just throw up that big of a middle finger to an entire team and just be like, nah, go fuck yourself. Yeah, go make a wide receiver play quarterback. We don't care enough about you in terms of our bottom line via ratings to accommodate all of your hard work and determination. I just don't get how Goodell expects to ever be, and I guess he doesn't give a shit to be taken seriously, but it blows the mind that someone could care so little about not even the fans, not even any of that shit, the politics of the times, just like his actual employees just doesn't give a shit.
Pure apathy,
It's remarkable. Wow. Oh man, do you have anything else to say on the matter?
Fuck the Dirty Birds, but hopefully they get healthy.
I can get with it. All right, if you want to follow the show on Twitter, you can do so at JuicingPod. If you want to hit us up via email, you can do so at juicingthenumbers@gmail.com. Hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving, and until Thursday, y'all have a good one.
Bye.
Fuck you, Craig. What the hell do you mean you're not recording on this channel?
Oh, I fucking hate this.